Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live with Louis DeAngelis. It is Friday, February 17th, year 2023 in the United Corporations of America. And we continue, as far as I could tell, to be the main independent and corporate outlet. Non-corporate outlet because corporate outlet seems to focus on the play-by-play of when the train kind of exploded and kind of vaguely talk, some of the residents don't feel well, but don't really get into details. So we have some...
Colin, is Jordan, is that cutting out live?
Some internet issues.
Alrighty. Jordan, are we there?
You see me?
Yep, we can see you again now.
All right. I don't know what's going on my end, so if it goes down, you take over.
Okay.
If it goes down, just go and unplug your router for like 10 seconds and plug it back in.
All right. Louis, take over with your report.
Yeah, for sure. So while Jordan gets some of this stuff squared away, I've got some, pretty breaking news on some of this. I actually interviewed a resident earlier today after seeing some stuff in a local Palestine Facebook group. This woman's name was Jenna Catone, and she lives literally right along the railroad tracks in East Palestine. She's less than half a mile from the actual derailment site. On top of, having a lot of the health effects that a lot of other people are having in the area that you've seen Jordan talk about on here, her and her son unfortunately actually spent a little bit of time in the hospital this past weekend, needing some nebulizer treatments and things like this from the chemicals in the air and whatnot. But what was most interesting about my conversation with her and why I reached out initially was because of a cleaning company that she had hired to actually come into her home to clean the home after the evacuation period had ended. Basically what happened was Norfolk Southern had said that folks need to wipe down all of their hard surfaces and whatnot in their home to be safe. This company actually won a contract with Norfolk Southern to actually come in here and go in and offer cleanings to residents at no cost to the residents. But the cost instead would be passed on to Norfolk Southern to be able to go do this. I believe we have that interview here. I think maybe a good way to get this started would be to play that interview. And then I've got some pretty crazy stuff in regards to this with some Facebook posts from the owner of the company. There's a lot of stuff being kind of hidden here. There are Facebook posts being deleted, comments being deleted. It's definitely not a good scene unfolding as this is all happening here in East Palestine. The cover up seems to be beginning. If it hasn't already started, there's a lot happening here that needs to be done. You saw that, smash the like button to get some more folks in here. And Colin, if we have that video of the interview ready to go, we can do that. And hopefully we'll have Jordan back on the other side and we can all talk about that on the other end. So if we could play that interview with Jenna. Alrighty, everybody, we are joined here with Jenna Catone. She lives right in East Palestine. Her backyard is literally the train tracks. I reached out to Jenna yesterday after seeing some information that she posted about the cleaning service that is, from my understanding, being provided by Norfolk Southern at this point. I guess, do you want to just get us up to speed on who this cleaning service is and what was the process of, reaching out to either them or Norfolk Southern and kind of how this whole thing unfolded?
So days after the train derailed and everybody was waiting to go back home, well, not days, this company was posting on Facebook that they offered services and that they were working with Norfolk to get the contract so we didn't have to pay out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So when I called their assistance center line, they had the company out of Beaver Falls, PA, I believe it is. I have their business card. I think I sent to you.
Yep.
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Yep. And we've got the actual Facebook post too. So folks can actually see that too. Yep.
And they dispersed they like called this company. He's like, oh yeah, we will come in and spray or set off foggers. You can't be in the house for like 45 minutes after. Then we go through and wipe off all high touch surfaces. The chemical will clean every surface. You don't have to go back over anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, great. Like if that's I'm not a chemist. I don't know what to do with the situation. None of my neighbors do. None of my town does.
Mm-hmm.
I said, great. If that's the process, that's the process. And then he comes to my house. I have to leave, obviously, but I'm in my driveway. I see them walk in with their shoes on. Most cleaning companies wear booties and full suits, like, which is fine because I'm like, whatever, they're cleaning. Like, maybe they're going to go back over the rugs. And then I sent you the videos. My whole house is on surveillance. He didn't wipe a single thing down. He walked through. He drug an extension cord from his truck through the dirt into my house. Like, we're in a time where we're worried about soil contaminants. Like, if my house wasn't contaminated, you don't think things landed outside? Like, my windows were open, but they wasn't the ground outside, you know?
Right. And then the other big thing here that you highlighted in the kind of screenshotted Facebook post, and luckily you did because I looked and that post and the comments are all gone now for some reason.
As I said, anytime he is questioned on his process, anytime anybody questions whether, like, how he's cleaning this up, he instantly deletes their question. He is... Right. It's sad because you expect a large corporation like Norfolk not to help you, but you expect your neighbor to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's from a neighboring community. He knows the impact. He knows we're small, we're local, you know. Mm-hmm. Why a contract you are not equipped to handle?
Well, and also, like, one of the questions that was now deleted on a deleted Facebook page from a resident was, are you hazmat certified? And the response from the cleaning company was, no, this isn't a hazmat situation. If this isn't a hazmat situation, I don't know what the hell is, clearly. So they're basically going into your house, and from this Facebook post, they had it written down as neutral cleaners.
Neutral cleaners. I was able to pull the SDS sheet on it. It is basically a hospital-grade germicidal agent. It adheres to surfaces and disinfects for germs. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but germs are my last. Like, I will lick a hospital wall before I touch something in my house.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, great, you cleaned your house of germs, but nothing with the chemicals that are in the area. Yeah, again, like, you can see... go ahead.
I had a cleaner come right behind him, less than 10 minutes. Whatever he did and sprayed didn't even smell anymore. Like, he was a lemon scent for 10 minutes.
Right.
And the cleaner behind him is industrial cleaners. They do industrial cleanups. They do hazmat cleanups. Mm-hmm. They fully suited up from head to toe, walked through my house. They took white rags over surfaces and said, no, these could all be residues.
Right.
These all need cleaned. Like, he sprayed something and just made wet chemicals. Like, not wet stuff.
Right. And this other cleaning service that you hired, did you have to pay? You paid for this one out of your own pocket?
I just got, they came out to assess the situation. They're really expensive. They said that I would have to try to get my landlord to go through homeowners or go through my renters, but my renters doesn't cover this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And so they just came in and, like, looked at what happened, basically, because you were... Okay, well, that's ridiculous. And again, just to be clear, this is the company that Norfolk Southern is, like, doing their quote-unquote, like, free cleanings with, the one that you're dealing with. They're clearly not qualified to be doing this sort of thing. And it sounds like they're still cleaning homes. You mentioned to me just a couple minutes ago that they're coming to do your neighbor, right?
I think they just left, but let me see if they're still out there. Yeah, they actually didn't drag their extension cord because she's not home. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're actually leaving right now.
Yep. Oh, is that the truck? Literally right there. There you go. Right there. So this is the same company still continuing to do this. And you mentioned to me that you tried reaching out to some other news organizations and no one wanted to talk about this?
A few of them, they all wanted me to go on camera live. They all wanted instant, like, come to my house and talk to me, like, that day. But they wouldn't take the videos. They wouldn't share the story without me, like, reporting live. But you're also, you have to work still, you're dealing with, I mean, you mentioned you're on the phone with lawyers and stuff. Obviously you're really busy. And again, thank you so much for taking the time here to do this. I mean, so you mentioned you're right at the railroad tracks, basically. Yeah, I'm going to put shoes on and show you where they still have the burnt cars, as much as I don't want to be back there.
It's totally up to you. If you're not comfortable, that's fine. But if you
know
are,
what? We're breathing the air. My windows were open when they exploded it, so let's do this.
Yeah. And I mean, has anyone in your family or you been experiencing health impacts from this?
Yeah, we both had a cough since Friday. Yeah, these train tracks are literally, this is my garage right here. And if I turn around, those are the tracks.
Wow. Okay.
There's still
Yeah. So you're
this is
right
probably the
there.
smell at night. There's still cars like less than, oh, you can't see them, but you can see like all their little bogs and stuff right over there. But there's still
Mhm.
cars like right diagonal from my house, like all the malt liquor cars, because the derailment was all the way up there,
Right.
but there was literally things burning right beyond there. I don't know if you can see that yellow car all the way back there.
Just to recap back, like what we saw back there. So the train tracks literally in your backyard. You can still see some of the cars, strewn off to the side in the distance. And we're I guess, first off, have you or anyone in your family had any noticeable health effects from this? I mean, we're talking to residents obviously in the town who are, but even folks 10, 15 miles away, even dealing with effects from this.
Friday night, my son and I both got a really bad cough. I think it was Sunday night. I went to the emergency room and got like an inhaler treatment and a nebulizer, and he did the same from his doctor. I had a rash, but it's all lifted. Like, I'm getting headaches and stuff, but I don't know if it's stress related at this point. Like, I don't know if it's in my head, but I don't feel like it is.
But I mean, these aren't things that you were having before. I mean, you haven't had to go to the hospital for nebulizer treatment before this. Your son either.
No, we have no underlying conditions of it.
I mean, that pretty clearly sounds like, I mean, a train with a bunch of freaking chemicals on board leaks in your backyard, and now you're having these effects. I mean, pretty clear that it's very well tied to this. I guess at this point, you also mentioned to me that during the day, maybe not so much smell in the air, but every night you're still having
Every night.
smell. I guess, can you describe what you're smelling and what that seems like?
It smells like burning plastic, but like thick. Like, it's like a smell that stays in your throat all day. I actually couldn't go to work this morning. I woke up with such a bad headache, and I opened the door and I just shut it. I said, I can't go. I can't do this another day. Like, it stinks so bad.
And has the town or the state EPA or anyone given you like an actual, like, I know I've heard like the air is fine, the water is fine, but don't drink it. Have they given you any sort of like test results? Not just like it's fine, we tested it and it's fine. Are you seeing like here's what we tested it for and these are the numbers, or is that not even getting out to residents?
Nope. To my knowledge, no. All I'm told is the water's safe, the air's safe, breathe the air, drink the water, pretend it never happened. It is sad that local communities are donating me water, but my own government isn't. Like, why isn't FEMA here? Why isn't DeWine doing something? Why is he just saying, it's fine? I challenge him to come live at my house. Come spend a night here. Smell the smells at night. Shower in my shower. Drink the water. Like, if you think it's safe, you bring your family here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a shame, and at this point too, I mean, the railroad company is, maybe giving folks $1,000 or something. I saw also on your Facebook page that it looked like that process was also a total nightmare. I mean, have you been reimbursed for anything up until this point, or is it, how is that whole process working out?
That whole process is complete and utter a shame. Like, it is a shame that they're putting people through what they're putting through. It is a disaster waiting to happen. You have an entire town of angry people in a non-secure building. Like, I fear for my life going there because I know people are angry. Like, there's going to be a massive brawl or something there because people are just angry. And then you announce that everybody in the world can have $1,000 just for having the zip code. Which is fair, but there has to be another process. Can't we just like do a website where you opt in and I mail you a check?
Right,
Can't
right.
Hey, the people who are just getting $1,000 go here. The people like me and my neighbors who need thousands of dollars of hotel receipts refunded, come here.
Right.
I have to wait 5 hours. Are you reimbursing me for 5 hours?
Right.
Like, inconvenience fee is nothing. An inconvenience is when my order is wrong at a drive-through, not when you dump thousands of gallons of chemicals in my backyard.
Yeah, and I mean, so it sounds like you haven't been reimbursed for anything yet, because what are they, or maybe you have been reimbursed for some things, but they just assume that folks aren't working, don't have kids they need to take care of, and can go sit in line in this building for hours on end waiting for their turn to essentially go up and hopefully get something.
I have went twice. The first time I was there 5.5 hours. The second I was there 3.5 hours. Yesterday I went at 11 a.m., grabbed a number, and left. I gave that number to my neighbor who needed reimbursed for things. She wasn't helped till like 6 p.m.
Oh my God.
Like, luckily I gave it to her and she didn't wait there, but who has time to do that? Who has, like, especially when you're not cleaning our homes and you expect us to live here. I have a 2-story house, 2 bedrooms with a huge basement. Like, I have to go through and deep clean every room of this house to make it habitable.
And add on top of that, I mean, if you're still smelling stuff in the air every night, I mean, is more just continuing to slowly trickle down and land in your house and then be dragged into your house by the cleaning crews that do show up and all this stuff. I mean, this is insane.
Especially when they don't take the precautions. Like, I'm not wearing my well, now I am, but I wasn't wearing my shoes in my house. They were off at the door, on at the door, like on the porch, because I don't know what's on the ground.
Right.
Like, way higher of a chance of it being on the dirt outside than it is on my carpet. And now here we are.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane. I mean, to recap some of this too. I mean, again, this is Jenna Catone. She lives right in East Palestine. Railroad tracks in her backyard. Use the cleaning company that is supposedly got a contract with Norfolk Southern to deal with the cleanings. They're not using the correct materials to clean chemicals out of a house. They're doing a poor job of doing it, it seems. We've got the video to prove it. Jenna, I guess if you have any other parting messages to share with folks who might see this, feel free to share.
I would just cancel that company. Like, they shouldn't make any more money. They shouldn't make any more money on a tragedy. As I said, you expect your neighboring companies and businesses to help you out. As I said, people are coming all the way from Canton to bring us water and stuff because the government isn't. But someone right down the road is taking train money to provide us a fake sense of security in our own homes.
Right. And add on top of that too, I mean, Norfolk Southern should be hiring a real company that is hazmat trained on top of it. The company seems to be taking advantage, but the railroad is obviously also clearly not giving a shit if they're hiring companies that aren't qualified to be able to do this sort of thing.
Exactly. But we expect that from them. We expect that from a company that continuously hides things. We don't expect that from a neighboring company. Like,
for sure.
You think a small business would have like another small town's back?
Right. Yeah, this is insane. I'll be actually on the ground starting Sunday in the area in East Palestine and surrounding areas. So please stay in touch with me. Maybe we'll meet up in person and we can go talk with some of your neighbors and whatnot in the future. So thank you so much again for taking the time, Jenna. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Whew. And I mean, to add on top of this, we learned even more this afternoon. I've been kind of going back and forth with Jordan and Colin here and doing a little bit more digging into the company SanEffect, as well as trying to reach out to Norfolk Southern just to get comment from either of them. I briefly spoke on the phone with the, I believe is the owner of SanEffect, and he basically said, no, you're correct. We are not hazmat trained. He said that when I asked him if the cleaning supplies that he was using were meant to be used on chemicals, he basically said, we don't even know what these chemicals are. So it's hard to say. You're asking the wrong person, which isn't exactly what you want to hear when basically this company is telling people that this is going to clean their homes after the fact. We actually have Colin, I believe. Let's see. Do we have first, let's do the product page or the chemical being used for the cleaning, just to look at that briefly. It should be the first link in this section. If we have that. Yep. Yeah. So this is the actual product. And then I basically found this information on the sheet that Jenna mentioned in that interview. And I followed the company page to this. And actually, Colin, if you want to pull that back up, sorry. And scroll down a bit. And on the right-hand side, you can click on efficacy. And you can clearly see right there that this thing is meant for killing COVID-19. It's meant for killing bacteria and germs. And they talk about it as a hospital-grade cleaner. It gets even worse, though, because not only...
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Wait a minute. So this company says they have green technology to kill COVID?
Yes. Yeah. So
we know we're dealing with a reputable source here.
Right. So and again, this is even like worse than all of this, because some of the information that I'm about to share here, it's a mishmash of a series of deleted Facebook posts, some posts that have been now put up. There's lots of weird little, arguments going on and stuff, and rightful arguments. I mean, again, I said this yesterday or the day before when I was on. The people of this town are freaking raring to go here to get this message out, and they are not listening to, and not just like taking the messages from the corporations and the government at this point at face value. They're questioning everything, and they're going to have to, unfortunately, because nobody's coming to save the day for them at this point. If we want to, go ahead.
I just want to point out something before you continue, because I think this is important, and we're going to get to the media cover up here, but I was fixing my internet, so I don't know if she said this in the video with you, but she said other reporters knew about this, but wouldn't cover it unless she came on live with them and like wouldn't mention or wouldn't go all the way reporting it.
Basically, like she had sent them the stuff, and they were like, "We want to come to your house right now and do this, or we like can't. We're not gonna run with it. No flexibility." It seemed like maybe they would run the story, but it was a little questionable, and there was basically zero flexibility from the reporters in doing it. I also reached out to Jenna last night on Facebook. I sent her a message. The nice thing to do is say, "Hey, obviously we want to do this as soon as possible, but when is a time that works for you?" She had to work, or eventually she had calls with lawyers. She was supposed to work in the morning, but wasn't feeling well. I wonder why. And she wasn't able to meet with me until noon, so I was happy to accommodate that. And we're still able to get our story here and get the message out. But yeah, so that part was included in the interview with us. Yeah.
No,
And it seems like we might still be having some connection issues with Jordan, so I'll kind of keep going on with some of this, because this gets even worse when you look a little bit further into it. So after calling the company SanEffect and doing some more digging here, I actually continued to talk with Jenna, and that's how I initially got that specific product sheet. But then, Colin, do you mind pulling up the kind of Facebook post from SanEffect that I emailed you? Yep. So I'll read this. And there's one line that I'm going to come back to, but he posted this in East Palestine Talk, which is a Facebook group where a lot of residents there's kind of several Facebook groups. A lot of residents are talking about all this stuff in. So I'm Paul, the owner of SanEffect. I understand everyone's frustration in this difficult time. I wanted to explain to you all our process. My techs are shown the proper way to spray the cleaner. Going through each room and spraying high allows for the product to disperse into all areas in the room. If they were to spray downwards, your room would be oversaturated. The product we're using is a neutral cleaner, a green product with no harsh chemicals. Neutral cleaner, it's that cleaner that we just showed you here. It doesn't require any wiping afterwards. This is key. We'll talk about this in a second. Again, I'll read this line one more time. The product we're using is a neutral cleaner, a green product with no harsh chemicals. It doesn't require any wiping afterwards. Norfolk asks for all of you to wipe everything in your homes upon return. Our process allows you to not have to do this. We don't need to read the rest of it, because that line right there is crucial. Folks were being told that they need to wipe the surfaces in their homes after they returned from the evacuations. This company, which has been contracted by Norfolk Southern, is telling people that if they have their homes treated with this process, which we saw in the video of the spraying down. Colin, I don't know, do we have some of this video we can show again too? You're just essentially coming in and spraying in the house. If we don't, it's okay. And this chemical spray in your home will prevent you. Yep. So this is what they're doing. This company is claiming that this spray makes it so that you do not need to wipe down the surfaces in your home to save you time. They're doing this so that you don't have to wipe down your stuff. In reality, what seems like what's happening here is that we have these chemicals from the train that were spilled coming into your homes and stuff, being dragged in by these cleaners and whatnot. They're spraying the stuff, not wiping anything down. And now you basically have these chemicals still in your house. And now it's covered in whatever this chemical is, or no, this neutral cleaner that is there. So now you have the chemicals from the train derailment on top. And then on top of that, you also have the neutral cleaner in your home. And you're basically just like, I mentioned this to Colin before we came on, and he was like, it basically seems like you're just gluing the chemicals in place potentially. So again, these people have now had the chemical spill happen. Stuff gets into their house. They hire a cleaning service that makes it seem like they're doing you a favor by not having you wipe everything down. And then in reality, your stuff still needs to be wiped down, but you've been told it doesn't. So now you still have these chemicals all throughout your house. I mean, it's that's insane. That's obvious. It's clearly dangerous. And we also reached out to Norfolk Southern this afternoon to ask why they're hiring a company that doesn't have any hazmat training. I think you can, no answer. Left a message, no response so far. So we'll see. I'm not holding my breath. But I mean, what a shit show.
Can I offer a totally speculative, not reporting, totally speculative, cynical conspiracy theory?
Let's hear it.
Is it possible that Norfolk Southern is hiring essentially and honestly, it's not the cleaning company's fault. They're just,
right.
They got the contract and, they want the business.
Right.
But is it possible they're hiring essentially a hospital grade cleaner that would clean germs and things like that? Because Norfolk Southern wants to keep the narrative for legal purposes that this is not a hazmat situation, that there are no vinyl chloride or toxic petrochemicals in these homes. And if we used I don't know what the term would be, but a company that is actually meant with hazmat gear and
hazmat certified.
Hazmat certified, then we're acknowledging that's this situation and that's what's in these homes. I don't know. I mean, they got an army of lawyers, so that might be totally random, but my thought is you would use kind of spring cleaners if you're trying to keep the narrative that this is not a hazmat situation, but we're doing this out of courtesy. Based
on the deleted Facebook comments, Colin, I don't know if you want to try to look for that again. Sorry, I know we're jumbled around a little bit here. Based on the deleted Facebook comments, the original Facebook post on the page, here it is right here. The company themselves saying this is not a hazmat cleanup. So that would tie into what you're saying right there.
So let me explain this for everybody in the back. I learned this today. Vinyl chloride, when it combusts, turns into phosgene, which was used as chemical weapons in World War II. Let me repeat. Vinyl chloride, when it combusts, which it combusted, was used, turns into phosgene, which was used as a chemical weapon in World War II. The purpose of it is to kill your enemy quick and basically kill them by respiratory airborne toxin. World War I, not World War. Thank you. Totally not Alfarius for the history lesson. So the point is, of course, it's a hazmat situation. That's why he's wearing a respirator. Should be wearing a hazmat suit. It's just incredible. And it's incredible to me. I don't know what, for example, you were talking, Lewis. I've been talking for the last 2 days to a source who I have not been able to get on camera yet. I won't get into why, but this person has a lot of information. I would love to report it right away, but the person is not comfortable coming on yet. And you have to kind of play that delicate dance where you're not like stuffing it down their throat, like, I need you now, because you want to be respectful of sources and build trust. And this person has the goods. So the fact that local reporters there literally are close enough to see the trucks outside these people's homes, look up what the company is, and hey, my mom's in the audience, and not report this themselves. I mean, you could literally, for the resident, go into the homes and see what they're spraying and see and look it up. I mean, this company, it cures COVID, whatever they're spraying. Give me a break.
Right.
I'm not cursing because my mother just got here. So it's absolutely outrageous. And what was her name?
Jenna.
Like Jenna says, it gives people a false sense of security because there's a lot of residents where those cleaners might come in, and not that they're stupid, but they might not be as curious or scrutinized with as close of an eye. So they think, okay, smells good. They cleaned everything, and now we could go back to life.
And I mean, I'll say that that's happening in looking in these Facebook groups. Again, that last post that we read where he mentions you don't need to wipe things down. There are people, he's basically like in the comments, there are people, some of them asking questions, and then other people being like, oh, this sounds great, I'll sign up, not looking into it. And then other people are hopping on that person's thing being like, this doesn't seem like it's like actually going to do anything. You should look into this more.
Look at
So it
this.
is. Yeah, go ahead.
Phosgene was used extensively during World War I as a choking pulmonary agent, not a hazmat situation.
No, definitely
And
not.
to be honest with you, I don't really. I mean, whatever. It was shady. The guy with the
Yeah.
company deleted the screenshots, which could catch on that.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's the company's fault. Norfolk Southern is basically sending in spring cleaners
Agreed.
to give off the impression that they're cleaning. It's also, by the way, if this is not a hazmat situation, I would also say it's dangerous for the
him,
cleaners.
his crew. Yeah. And I mean, when I talked to him on the phone, that is like when he said like you're asking the wrong person. I said I'm not hazmat trained. You know what I mean? Like this gentleman doesn't know the chemicals that are in there. He's not a scientist. He's not a chemist or anything like that. But he won a contract with Norfolk Southern. I mean, obviously that's probably a big deal. This seems like a local business. He's located in Pennsylvania, right over the border. But if you're going to make claims telling people, if you do this, you don't have to wipe anything down. I mean, we're not experts either. It didn't take me that long to figure this sort of thing out. That's dangerous.
And let me ask you, I don't know if I missed this, but didn't she say that she got another cleaning crew that she paid for?
So she didn't pay for another cleaning crew, but there was another cleaning crew in the area that seemingly was doing another house or something. They would cost like upwards of $1,000 or something to come do the house. Jenna, like most people wouldn't be able to afford that to happen. And she asked them about it, just be like, hey, can you come look at this? And like showed them the video and everything. And they were saying like, that is not how you should be cleaning this sort of thing. This other crew was hazmat certified. And was doing the actual job. So it's not like Norfolk Southern didn't have other options of folks to reach out to. But instead, they choose this guy. And I will say Jenna did make a point to say that the local company that is being used was actively trying to get in touch with Norfolk to make this happen. Which is another interesting angle, especially if you aren't hazmat. I mean, that it's chemicals, not COVID spreading through these houses at this point. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some COVID spreading through these houses too, but that's not the top of mind in East Palestine right now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, can I just say, look what Lewis is breaking, not even on the ground there, and he's going on the ground. So imagine what we could find out with Status Lou on the ground Sunday through whenever. There's going to be a town hall, we're told, on Thursday. Aaron Brockovich is going to be in East Palestine. So definitely, if it's within your means, support us. Join us as a member. StatusCoup.com/join. On the ground reporting is not cheap. Flights, hotels, rent a car, paying Lewis, obviously. So that's what you're paying for, actual reporting. And I have a good feeling we could place a bet, Lewis. How many of the reporters you see there right now?
Yeah.
How many do you think will still be there by Sunday or Monday when you get there?
Yeah, we'll see. My guess is the numbers are going to decline dramatically right now. It's not going to be good. And I will say too, I mean, I've already got between the folks that Jordan's interviewed and I've interviewed and some other folks who we haven't talked to on camera. We've got some connections. We're laying the roots so that when I get there, we're going to be able to have a lot of content coming your way with actual residents who live there and trying to uncover whatever they're actively trying to cover up right now.
And let me tell you something. We're about to have a guest on from Flint who could tell you the same thing. I'm not saying the focus shouldn't be on. I think the Lever and David Sirota has done great reporting on what caused this and the corporate greed and the corporate malfeasance and the lack of regulation and the outdated trains. All that's super important. But that's half the story. The other half, which very rarely gets covered, is the cover up when the cameras leave, because that's when the cover up actually begins, when the media stops caring and all the cameras leave. That's what happened in Flint. That's what's happened in a lot of places I've covered. Once the media does their 5 minutes of coverage and they leave and maybe sprinkle some follow-ups here and there in a couple years, that's when the company does whatever it wants. The EPA and state agencies suddenly are finding the levels of air or water are suddenly getting better. The media regurgitates the bullshit data that they put out. And then 5 to 10 years later, you have a cancer alley, which is happening in Flint. You have God knows how many people are dead, which happened in Flint. And unfortunately, is going to happen here. I hate to say it, but that's likely going to be the outcome. And let's give you an example. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Lewis.
Mhm.
So what's today? Friday. On Wednesday, I interviewed a woman who's 15 miles away. Her name is Therese. Colin, for those that didn't see it, let's give a refresher on what she experienced. So talk to me about when did you first start noticing anything in terms of your own health, anyone in your family?
The controlled release began on February 6th, which was Monday. It was towards the end of the day, probably, I think it was like between 4 and 5 o'clock is when they initially started doing it. I was outside having my coffee like I do every night after dinner. And I didn't notice a smell in the air, and I didn't even expect to smell anything being 15 miles away. But I did notice that my coffee tasted unusually bitter. A little bit later, I was back out on my porch, and coffee still tasting bitter. And then I noticed my lips started feeling numb. The roof of my mouth started feeling numb. My tongue started burning, and my throat started burning.
Wow. At
that point, I went in the house and I got my husband and I said, come out here and smell the air. I said, because I think it smells funny. I could smell a burning smell. He took a big breath in. He said, yeah, I smell something out there. He said it smelled like burning electronics. And then this proceeded 2, maybe 3 more times throughout the night. I would go out, experience the symptoms, come back in, and they would dissipate. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, because it wasn't sticking once I went back in the house, like the symptoms would just dissipate. And at that point, I had my tongue just was fried. By the time I woke up the next morning, it felt like I had been scalded, because as I talked to you in our communication prior to right now, I did experience the gastrointestinal bleeding, which I believe was because of the coffee that was like oddly bitter. I think whatever was in the air got into the coffee.
So that was 15 miles away.
Yeah.
She went to her doctor. If you could put up the statement, Colin. Her doctor, looked at her and said that my doctor said I have signs of chemical exposure in my mouth, throat, ears, and nose. He declined blood work as they do not have tests to identify chemicals in the bloodstream. He advised me to come in monthly for a chest x-ray to be proactive should anything begin to form. Other than that, he said there is so little information coming out from authorities that the medical people aren't sure how to proceed. I have faith in him, and he said he would let me know if any of his other patients begin to develop additional symptoms. He said there have been a ton of people from our area coming into his office with the same symptoms I have had. So this is one woman 15 miles away. Obviously, coffee, you use water for coffee. I want to be clear. This is not me reporting it. I'm just telling you what I've been told through sources I talked to. So I can't confirm this, but I feel comfortable just saying I have spoken with people that are saying they know people in Virginia. They know people in Canada that are and Maine that are experiencing symptoms, because we don't know how far the wind took this.
Right.
Again, I want to be clear. Like I haven't directly spoken with them yet. Once I talk to more people, that's something I could say. People are having symptoms far, far away. But I've heard from more than one people that they know people who have expressed that they're feeling dizzy or have had headaches or a sore throat very far away from where this is. And that is going to be the battle. And when Melissa comes on, she'll be able to tell you what the company is going to do. The battle for the next 10 to 15 years is going to try to narrow the victim radius as much as possible. Mm-hmm. They are going to, with their bullshit testing and cherry pick data and bought off scientists, because a lot of the scientists tend to get grants from the company or the EPA. They're going to say this only applies to people in this radius. So that woman 15 miles away, hopefully her symptoms are short term. She's talking about blood in her poop. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
So this is not, I mean, obviously the main concern is the people in the immediate direction. But to be clear, this is going to affect people in Western Pennsylvania, Western
Western
Pennsylvania,
Yep.
and east of East Palestine and west of East Palestine, which is Ohio, and West Virginia, possibly.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually have been in touch with Therese already, and she told me that she's been in contact with. She doesn't know all these people personally, but in a Facebook group for her town, people who live close to her, in that roughly 10 to 20 mile away range, who are also having symptoms. So we're actively working on trying to set something up to bring a bunch of these folks together to hopefully bring some of that to you all.
And by the
Monday
way,
or
when
Tuesday this week.
you know what pisses me off so much, I can't fucking stand people who don't live somewhere telling other people it's in your head.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that on Twitter. I'm seeing that from right wingers and other assholes. Oh, it's all psychosomatic.
Right.
Oh, you're all having a sore throat at the same time. It's in your head. Like, go get some Dayquil.
Right.
Are you crazy? Yeah, everybody's just paranoid and a hypochondriac. Then
Right.
they think their tongues are on fire for no reason. I spoke with someone. I'll keep him anonymous because he didn't want to go on the record. I spoke with someone who is a tough motherfucker, pretty conservative, not huge on vaccines or other stuff. And this person told me about 2 hours away, he had numbness on his lip, and then it started moving throughout his face, tingling and numbness, including in his eye. This was 2 hours away.
Jesus.
So you tell me this isn't a hazmat situation
right
in these people's homes.
Right. No. This natural COVID cleaner is going to totally wipe it out.
And by the way, folks, when we're sending Status Lou, I told him don't try to look cool. I think it's crazy that the EPA chief is walking around without a respirator on. I understand for the residents there, obviously I'm not telling you what to do. I would wear a mask if it was me. This is not like the COVID debate over masks. Like there is some toxic cancer-inducing shit in the air, and you need to, if it were me, I'd be wearing a respirator. But I said to Lewis, get whatever you need, we'll pay for it, meaning the audience, help us out, statuscoup.com/join, because God knows what you're breathing in.
Yeah, no, definitely doing a respirator, at least for the majority of my time especially as I'm closer into East Palestine. But even the N95 masks in this case, I talked to my partner who is works in science and microbiology and stuff. The size of the I'm going to butcher this. Sorry if there's any science people in here, but the size of the particles, if you will, for a virus like COVID versus these chemicals, the chemicals are much, much smaller. So even an N95 mask isn't good enough for this sort of thing. That's why, with the hazmat suits and whatnot, you see folks wearing respirators. Those have filters that filter even smaller things out of the air. So definitely we'll be doing a respirator.
Get it and send me the bill.
Yeah.
Hopefully the audience pays for it. Well, we need to move on to more fuckery. I can't really say this is exclusive. I think I saw it on Twitter, but I haven't really seen it reported extensively. So the EPA, who once Melissa comes on, she could tell you Flint's experience with the EPA, because the EPA knew that the state of Michigan's EPA, you've heard the federal EPA be very deferential, very deferential to, oh, here she is. You ready to join us? So
yeah.
Perfect that you came on for this. You're with myself and Lewis. So the EPA, this is Melissa Mays, the Erin Brockovich of Flint, we'll call her. She's been fighting the fight that, unfortunately, the residents of East Palestine are now going to have to fight. So I looked into it, and the EPA, who has been saying their tests are showing everything's dandy and there's no vinyl chloride in people's homes, even though people are telling me and Lewis that their house smells like formaldehyde, chemicals, gas. When they go in, their eyes burn, things like that. So I looked at the EPA's, you just Google EPA East Palestine PDF. Colin, could you pull that up, that document? So this is the EPA's round of testing for yesterday. And if you go to the bottom, third page, it says, keep going. It says prepared for the EPA, prepared by Tetra Tech. Now, for those in California, Tetra Tech in 2018 was busted for falsifying radiation data. If you could put up the Department of, United States joins lawsuits against Tetra Tech EC Inc. alleging false claims in connection with shipyard cleanup. United States has intervened in 3 whistleblower cases pending in the Northern District of California against Tetra Tech, alleging that Tetra Tech submitted false claims to the U.S. Navy for radiological remediation and support services provided at Hunter Point Naval Shipyard in San Francisco. Tetra Tech is located in Jersey. The Navy awarded contracts to Tetra Tech to test parcels of land at the Hunter Point Naval Shipyard for radiation and to remediate any areas where the radiation was excessive. Lawsuit alleges that Tetra Tech misrepresented the source of soil samples it submitted for radiological testing. The lawsuits also allege that Tetra Tech falsified data collected from radiological surveys. This led to supervisors being sentenced to prison time. That's more than we could say for the EPA and what the EPA did to Flint. But I don't know, Colin, do you have that YouTube clip I sent you too? This is from the mayor of East Palestine, who seems like a good guy, and some other, quote, experts talking about who's doing the air testing.
So we didn't just have one agency doing testing. So the air testing was being done by not only the contractor for the railroad, but by the US EPA and from the civil support team, which is a National Guard unit. So they were all 3 doing that testing, comparing all those numbers. Then those numbers were reviewed by the Ohio Department of Health, which put very, very stringent restrictions on what the acceptable levels were. And that was reviewed the whole way up to the CDC before any decisions were made on that.
But as far as...
So is this the contractor for the rail company? Because the document says prepared for the EPA by Tetra Tech. All I know is not a good look if you are working with or subcontracting out to a company that falsified radiation levels in California. But Melissa, for the layman, you could explain, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist because there's plenty of good people at the EPA. They're not all trying to screw people. However, the EPA does have an allergy to transparency and accurate testing. And they also know, in the case of Flint, Melissa, that they basically looked the other way, knowing that the state of Michigan Environmental Department was falsifying water testing data.
Well, what this is basically, if I were to be raped and I went to my rapist for the rape test kit, that's exactly what's happening. So it's happened in Flint. It's what's, happened in Kalamazoo. It's what's happened in pretty much every disaster. They could say it's because the EPA has been so defunded. They could say this and this and that. But in Flint, the EPA hired certain scientists who had already come to the narrative that Flint was fixed in 2016. It's no longer 2016. I don't know if everybody notices, and our water's still bad. But they hired him because then they're saying, and then what they would do in community meetings is when the folks were upset and asking the EPA questions, they would point to this professor or this scientist or these people say that the testing is fine and we trust them. We're paying them to say this. But they're hiring the people who did it or the people who have a way to profit off of everything going away. So it's just like when Nestle was saying that they were going to draw all of this water from Everett, Michigan, and bottle it for billions of dollars in profit every year. And they said, oh, no, it wouldn't hurt the environment, the fish, the local economy, any of that. It wouldn't hurt it at all. Well, their own people were the ones that did the assessment, of course. So why this continues to happen? It's right now the state of Michigan and City of Flint who falsified the tests, who didn't properly test, who lied, covered up the fact that we had hundreds of people dying from Legionnaires and bacterial pneumonia. We've had tons of people that increased miscarriages, the increased lead levels that are still high. We have all this stuff, but the EPA is trusting the state of Michigan, City of Flint, who did this to us, to properly report on this. And unfortunately, that's what the media goes by. They're like, hey, Melissa Mays, we know you and your neighbors and your friends, family, all that stuff are suffering, and you're doing, independent testing and all that stuff, we don't actually care. We're going to go and roll with what the state of Michigan says because they're the experts, right? Well, the experts are the ones that poisoned us. The residents are the experts that uncovered it and proved what's going on, and that's the case in all of these communities. Honestly,
well, the experts in the case of Flint either knew and didn't care or didn't know that you have to add corrosion control into water systems when you switch water sources so that old lead or heavy metals don't leach off the pipes. So maybe they're not the experts you want to lean on.
Exactly. And they keep saying, well, they trust these people and that we should too. And like, first of all, why should we trust you? Second of all, why would we trust the people who did this to us and who have, they asked me this. We went back to court again on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. And again, they asked the question, well, when are the residents of Flint going to trust the water? Is it just never going to be, a system of trust? I'm like, listen here. When you put water, even if it's great water, which ours is not, ours is an experimental blend. If you put perfect water through corroded pipes, common sense, plumbing, eyeballs, all this stuff will tell you that those corroded pipes, fixtures, appliances are going to contaminate the water. So whatever, it could have started off as great water, it's going to be bad water by the time it gets to us. So we trust that because we have lived through it and we know this, we understand how basic plumbing works. It has nothing to do with, I don't trust the government. However, the fact that the government did this, the government has not fixed it, and the government's telling us to drink our contaminated water still, why should we trust them? So again, they're trying to say it's trauma. You guys have hurt feelings and whatnot. I mean, no, we got dead folks, but and we do have trauma. You have traumatized us, but take all that out of it. Good water hits bad pipes, comes out bad water. That's the way that it is. So they're telling the people in East Palestine the same thing. Hey, you're in your house, you're walking through town, your eyes are burning, you're getting nosebleeds, you're getting these crushing headaches, you can't breathe, you're coughing. Oh, you're just hypersensitive. And actually, the mayor of Flint said that at a press conference that the people are hypersensitive about the water. Good God. But that's what they're trying to say.
Well, the mayor of Flint seems hypersensitive about criticism, but we won't go there.
Yeah, no, he absolutely does not like the fact that I point out that our system's unstable. Let's just say that, we didn't have water over the weekend because a huge main break that took out the whole city. But
and April is what, 9 years since you've had clean water?
9 years. And we're still getting junk pipes that we had to go back to court to force them to continue. And they basically stood in front of the judge and said, I don't know to all the answers of how are you going to get it done? When are you going to get it done? Why haven't you got it done? I don't know. It's hilarious. I need to sue for lost brain cells, not even from the poisoning, just from listening to this. But now listening to and talking to residents who are now like me, they were normal folks, just doing their thing, living their lives, busy and all that stuff, got poisoned, their families got messed with, and now they're having to become activists, talking to them and say, okay, look, this is the play. This is what they're going to do. They're going to try to, say everything that you're saying is wrong. You're dumb because you don't have a PhD, so you don't know what you're talking about, even though you're watching your face bleed and your head splitting open and your eyes are red and you can take all these photos. They're going to do everything they can. They called us bored housewives, like we had nothing else to do. And that's, hey, even if I was, which I was not, I still didn't put lead in my water. But then they later on said I put lead in my own water, and I don't know where you buy lead to sprinkle in, but hey, I apparently did that. So they're going to be ridiculous like this and be prepared for this. But you are the experts. You're the ones living there. So document everything. Share your stories, because anybody in this country, and probably this planet, anybody who in this country who thinks it can't happen to them because the way they've painted our cities, they painted Flint as some post-apocalyptic wasteland. So it could never happen to you. And it's only happening to those crazy black folk or those uppity these whatever, and then I put my face out there and they're like, oh my God, it could happen to me too. Yes, if you use water, even if it's well water, because now we're looking at East Palestine, air, soil, water, the water table, the aquifers, all of that. And the fact that I spoke with some toxicology friends earlier today about it, and they're like, yeah, there's going to be an acid rain that affects bouncing back and forth for a long time. And I grew up in the South, and I was a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and now that cloud is heading down to Cincinnati. And I'm like, well, guess we gotta letting friends know. But at the end of the day, none of us, unless we're wealthy white men in the upper 1%, none of us are immune. So we all need to care about these stories, because if it isn't already happening to you, it's going to be. And because profits over people, and I said it earlier today, I said, as long as they can treat us like disposable people, continue to fatten their wallets, and they're going to continue to, pad their profits and hold on to that political control over everything. So we have to remember that everybody else is in this too. And if you look at the map of the spread of this bomb, this train bomb, this huge bomb and this plume, it's going to be spreading so far. It's going to be ruining lakes and rivers and all that. And the fact that they're like, hey, it's been a couple weeks, sure, it's fine. Go back in there. Go back in there. You'll be fine. Because we don't care about you, tiny little town of poor white folks. And that's the thing is that, there was and I'm terrible, I would butcher it. The poster saying at first they came for this, and then they came for this, and then nobody was there when they came for us. That's where we're at, folks. And it's going to continue to be that. And I know I'm a ray of sunshine. However, the power of the people is greater than this. As long as we're no longer siloed and we realize, hey, we're eating crap, we're drinking crap because they want us to, and they want us to believe that we're fine in our little safe bubbles until they invade our bubbles. And I'm not talking about stupid balloons in the air, geez, we have a balloon problem. No, we have a train exploding and people are getting poisoned. Can
I ask you real quick, because Lewis has to go and I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you saw this, but Lewis broke earlier in the show that Norfolk Southern was sending in basically like a hospital grade cleaning company into people's homes and they were spraying stuff that is meant to kill germs. And the owner or the guy who was doing it said on Facebook before deleting it that this is not a hazmat situation. So this is not a hazmat gas or whatever. So basically, they sprayed with stuff that you would use to clean hospitals. According to the website, this kills COVID. We won't even go there. And then they just told residents after, what did they tell residents? You're fine.
Yeah, basically, like initially, folks, when they were returning back to their homes after being like evacuated, when they were coming back, the message from like Norfolk Southern and others were to like wipe down all of your hard surfaces in case chemicals had landed there and whatnot. But what this cleaning company, which again has been contracted by Norfolk Southern so that folks can have this company come at no cost to them, the cost is onto the railroad, basically come in and like spray, like fumigate type style spray the homes. And the company is claiming that if you have their service come, you don't need to wipe down any hard surfaces. Now, when I look at that, I see, okay, so now you've sprayed something that does nothing to clean chemicals on top of chemicals, and then you just told everyone that it's fine to go into their house and everything's fine and dandy.
So when you look at a lot of these chemicals they're breathing in, the number one cause of a lot of these is cleaning chemicals. So they're just going to say, hey, check this out. Like, okay, so with our water, we had a chemical problem, a corrosion problem. And they're like, you know what we need to do? We need to throw more acid in it. We have this acidic water, and we're going to fix it by throwing acid in it. And we have holes in pipes, and we're not going to replace the pipes. We're just going to throw more acid in there, and that'll coat the holes in the pipes. But this is ridiculous. They're just, and nothing on soft surfaces, because obviously chemicals can't absorb into fabrics, right? Or
of course. And this cleaning crew that came in too, they are like, they themselves, even I called the owner on the phone. He said on the phone and in a deleted Facebook page that he is not hazmat certified. And at one point he said it's not a hazmat situation. That has since been deleted off of Facebook. Fortunately, due to a resident that I interviewed earlier, she screenshotted all of this stuff, and we were able to get it out there. And to your point, I mean, listening to you talk about all of this, I mean, fortunately right now, folks in East Palestine are stepping up to the plate. It sounds like people are pissed off and they're questioning everything as they should be.
And Melissa, I can't, I haven't spoken with everybody yet, so I can't confirm this, but I can tell you, I've spoken with like 5 or 6 people who tell me that they have spoken with people in Virginia, in Canada, in Maine, that have had symptoms in like the last week.
It's in the air. It's not like there's state lines and the air stops there. Like same with the water. It all gets all mixed in. I mean, well, and I know that Norfolk Southern's trying to act like everything's fine. They just totally derailed a train up in here in Michigan. They're like, here, we'll just throw that up there to you guys too. I mean, they said it was empty. Of course, I don't believe anything anymore anyways, but whatever. But yeah, no, like, of course, and plus we have winter storms coming. There's all the shifts. I'm not a meteorologist by any means, but yeah, it's not going to just stay, right. Just like how it's not going to just stay on hard surfaces. And what is a Clorox wipe going to do
That's basically what they're doing. It's the equivalent of like wiping a Clorox wipe over at once or something. I do have to run in a second, guys, but I just want to make one more pitch. If you're not already a Status Coup member, I'm going to be on the ground in and around East Palestine starting on Sunday. Please consider becoming a member. I will. Thank you very much.
Look at that handsome face. Look at that handsome face. Sign up as a member.
And you know what I'll say too right now, and today is actually my birthday, so throw some extra member stuff in there.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I've been working on this.
I wouldn't have asked you to come on if I knew it was your birthday.
I was working all day today anyway, honestly. It's fine. And I spent a lot of time on this because it's important. So if you think it's important as well, become a member, statuscoup.com/join, super chats, all that sort of stuff. So thank you guys very much. And we'll stay in touch, Jordan. I actually, while we were sitting here too, I just got a voicemail from another resident that had been referred over to me. So
sorry to tell you,
a lot coming your way.
Sorry to tell you, your birthday will be filled of sick people calling you because they're not getting help from the mainstream media. I can tell you that. That's why they're calling us.
Absolutely.
So,
thanks guys.
Ben. So, Melissa, I wanted to bring you on. Well, obviously, we'll talk about Flint, but I'm trying to explain to people. I'd say 50% of the story, 50% of the story is what caused it, which is obviously corporate greed, the railroad workers being steamrolled. Biden blocked them from going on strike. You have all these trains literally have brake systems from the Civil War era. There's a lot to get into on what caused it. But the other 50% of the story that the media does not cover is when the cameras leave, that's when the actual cover-up starts. Because I got news for you. Why we're going now is because the media has done their 5 minutes of coverage. Most of those reporters will be gone by Sunday or Monday, is my guess. And that's when the company, and that's when the federal agencies, and that's when the state agencies, eyes are off of us again. Now we could screw people. And I think, you tell me what you think, because I know you have spoken with residents in East Palestine. Number one, the company, and I think the EPA and the Ohio EPA, their main focus is going to be on narrowing the victim radius as much as they can, which will probably be a court battle for the next decade. You've been in court for a decade. This is, by the way, the lead plaintiff on the major civil class action lawsuit against Rick Snyder and the Republican governor and several other entities that was filed in 2017 as a result of the Flint water crisis. It led to 90 million, was it, in pipe replacement, which 9 years later, they still haven't replaced. Imagine that. 9 years later, they still have not replaced all the pipes in Flint. They haven't touched residents' interior plumbing. They haven't touched, other than them breaking on their own, the main pipes under the ground. So Flint is 52% black. Last I checked was 40-something% poverty. East Palestine is a pretty poor place too. What do you think's going to happen to East Palestine? You think they're going to fix this right away? Hell no. And magically watch, maybe they'll acknowledge there's some contamination, but then real quick, the levels will go down and you're not going to hear about this anymore.
That's exactly it. Because Flint is not a lead crisis, right? Like our water, we found lead because Bob Bocock told us to ask to look for it, because we had orange and brown water, which meant iron corrosion, which meant there's a corrosion problem, and iron doesn't travel alone. That iron corrosion, however, and then we found out copper corrosion feeds bacteria like Legionella, and we had hundreds of people die from Legionnaires and bacterial pneumonia, which we still have Legionnaires outbreaks on the constant after, Flint was fixed apparently in 2016. But lead, and the Plumbers Union says that we were already talking about the TTHMs, which are carcinogenic disinfection byproducts. So cancer-causing disinfection byproducts by the untreated water allowing bacteria to grow and kill people, causing, the E. coli in our gut. And then also I found out, so apparently I've got RA now. And did you know that RA can be caused by H. pylori, which is caused by drinking bacteria-laden E. coli water and food. So that's pretty cool. It's interesting that, I can now have RA that from my gut bacteria. Okay, cool. Awesome. From drinking water that I thought was healthy. Wonderful. The gifts keep coming from the Flint water crisis. But again, we were originally out protesting disgusting because of the bacteria that was killing people, the disinfection byproducts causing rashes, hair loss, headaches, gastrointestinal problems, all this stuff, the fumes. Like to this day, unfortunately, the water, when it was full of the main break and all that stuff over the weekend, the water, when it did come back on, was less destructive to me because I could wash the makeup off my face while keeping my eyes closed, mouth shut, close the nose, all that great stuff. They don't get up in there. And I didn't get nosebleeds like I do now with all the chemicals back in the water. You can tell they put it in because, oh my, look at this head of hair. It's frizzed all over the place. It's mad at me. Whatever hasn't fallen out. But Flint is dealing with all of these other contaminants, disinfect, because again, they tried fixing a chemical problem by throwing in more chemicals, even though they had no idea what they were doing, didn't care either. And
they also made it worse. Chris just asked, you know how many boil water alerts they've issued in Flint? When you have lead in the water, you could tell them, what does boiling the water do?
Once again, after 3,200 and some odd days of the Flint water crisis, the mayor came out and said, everybody, boil your water. This is boil water advisory. We had to go on. And the Flint Rising, I put a graphic together and we paid our own pocket money. We paid money for an ad to go out to target Flint residents saying, for the love of God, please filter and then boil. Because if you just boil the water and it's not been filtered, one, you're putting the TPHM, the disinfection byproduct gas, right up in your face. Two, you're condensing the metals that are in there, which we still have all the corrosion issues and lead being released. And then they're flushing, and the fact that the main broke it all shakes up contaminants like heavy metals. And so you need to filter and then boil. And they like, oops, we forgot again. So the residents, once again, had to go calling everybody. We had to call the media saying, please, would you please correct what you just copied and pasted from what the city just said? Because what you're going to do is you're going to boil the water. It's going to have less water, more metals. So, because boiling don't get rid of metals. And it's also messed up that we live in a world where I also, by the way, on Monday, during this whole main break, whatever, had to go pay $529 for a water bill shut off. But, and I didn't go because they don't like me down there and all this stuff. My husband had to go. He was number 92 for the day and he went early. Apparently they did mass shut off. City needed money for whatever, and they did mass shut off, but they were sending people bills between $500 and $1,100. And that was for 2 months, by the way, 2 months, 60 days of not paying enough. And so there's these people, they were lined out the door. Adam was sitting there and he said, I was number 92 and there are people lined outside the door. He was like, don't get upset. I was like, duh, too late. So, so here we are having people fight to keep the poison on. And then I got interviewed on Friday. I didn't even have water. And I'm like, great, I have to pay $500. I have to scrape together $529, skip other bills to pay this crap for water I don't even have. And that's right. And again, water that can make me sick, and you're not providing the health coverage or health care. I saw somebody write about Libby, Montana. Yeah. We've been pushing for that since 2015 for Medicare for all, but they don't want to spend money on the poor folks and the people that they poison.
And I think the important connection here. So the Flint water crisis basically began right away. So you're talking April of this year will be 9 years. They basically, through the Republican governor, it's a Republican governor in Ohio. I don't even think it matters. I think the Democratic governors would have done similar. They basically started the narrative that it was over 3 years later.
They were saying the Flint water crisis was fixed before a single pipe ever got removed. And they were trying to encourage people to drink the water and say, we don't have to spend money. We had to sue to get the pipes removed. People were like, they stepped up and started, no. We had to sue for 18 months to get them to replace the pipes, and they're still not done. It was supposed to be done in 2020, and it's not 2020 anymore. And so I need to ask everybody, did I see on Twitter that the governor of Ohio said that he would drink the water?
Yeah.
Oh!
So my point is, it's very similar what's going on. They told you for 18 months, you and Flint residents, don't believe your lying eyes, don't believe your lying skin, don't believe your lying brown water. Here, I'd like your thoughts. I mean, I don't know if they're just the levels that they're putting out or their measurements on what the dangerous range is, but they're saying they've tested 600 homes or something. We're not finding we're not detecting vinyl chloride. We're not detecting this in the air. They're saying that the city water is fine. Then why are people, by the way, not just in East Palestine, we're talking about 15, 20, 30, 50 miles away, having sore throats, numb lips, sore throat, dizziness, nausea. I mean, I've heard one woman that we showed earlier had blood in her stool. So what are they getting this from if you're not detecting anything on your tests for air, for water? And I don't think they've said anything on the soil yet. What do you think about these claims?
Well, I would need to know how they're testing. So far, it doesn't even look like they're doing the cumulative test, and they're also not doing blood or urine or hair tests on folks, and that'd be a good idea to do, especially the blood test. But local doctors there and local companies there that would like to help and test and everything don't have the equipment or the capacity or the know-how to even know what to test for. So looking at the test, they're doing that whole thing of we're not finding this, but then they're not testing for it or they're not testing properly for it. And also, I looked up, after you sent me the stuff, I was like, vinyl fluoride, my God. Yeah, it's also a byproduct in tobacco smoke. And didn't we ban, because we found that smoking and secondhand smoke were really dangerous. And even though it was found to be in small amounts in cigarette smoking, aren't we not supposed to be doing that? But these folks are okay to go breathing this. And this among many. And then I saw like the test it was showing up with ethanol and all sorts of other stuff. First of all, they're awful if they think that people are stupid enough to believe that a huge giant train bomb cloud went off and that there's nothing that's going to be in these folks' homes. This is unfortunately one of the things we worried about in Flint was that if Flint was swept under the rug, if they got away with it in Flint, it was going to become the textbook to covering up these types of things that harm people, because then they would have to pay to fix people, and they don't care about the poor people or regular folks, and they don't want to fix this because they would cut into their profits like 0.5% or whatever it would be and make them look bad. And that's a nope. And so we worried about this, but we're seeing this in all of these different cities. So that's why we're like, all right, look, it's not like we don't have enough to do. But if this happened in Newark too, and we said, if we can use the Flint name and people are like, oh no, we're not like Flint, don't talk to us like, if we can interject and help and be like, hey, you're treating these people like Flint residents, why are you doing that? That, as sick as it is and as awful as it feels in my gut for me to say things like that, it gets them moving. But how long is the shame wheel going to last? And and that's the thing, is like, it has to go to shaming people and say, this is what you're doing and not doing. Like, it's just like all the gun violence and all. We just had an MSU school shooting and people like thoughts and prayers. My thoughts and prayers don't stop bullets. Yo, do something. But it's going to take people actually getting together and not just being this university or this city or this part of the country or this crisis saying, oh, that's just water. No, it's not. It's you eat your food, you water your plants, you feed your animals, you feed the livestock, all this stuff. It's not just the air in New Palestine. It's everything is connected. And unfortunately, even if the causes might be different, the triggers might be different. Okay, this was a crash and ours was a water switch. It's still the same type of disaster. It's still the cover-up, instant cover-up. Them trying to say, first of all, you're lying, it's not there. Okay, we'll slightly admit that it's there. And again, they didn't want to talk about the bacteria or the disinfection byproducts because those are a lot harder to solve than replacing pipes, even though they don't seem to be able to replace pipes. But that's why they switched, saying, oh, lead. It's all about lead. Because lead you can remove, but also lead you can filter or at least reduce easier than you can by disinfection byproducts and bacteria, because also those filters don't usually touch those, or the filters can actually grow bacteria if they're not properly rinsed. And of course, you have to wash your filter before using. So that's interesting. So that's what it is. If they're going to grab onto the easier things, and that's all they're going to test for, because what they should be doing is broad spectrum tests. They should be doing it on soft materials, but they should also be doing it because one of the things that Aaron Brockovich and Bob Bocock taught me is that when we boiled the water for the bacteria, we were condensing the metals, but also when we were releasing those cancer-causing disinfection byproducts, releasing them into the home, a lot of us, especially with the whole, like, we need to make our homes more efficient so we can afford to live in them, have Tyvek wrap, all the insulation, plus people have, like, these closed central air systems. You're just recirculating that throughout the house. And they're going to try to do this thing where they tested once saying, oh, it's fine, or, oh, the worst thing in the world to say is, oh, well, we tested for a couple things and they met federal regulation. Well, first of all, like in Flint, they're saying that we meet federal regulations. That has zero to do with safety, human safety, health. None of them are health-based standards. So show me where you've tested and also where people use their home and how they use them. Like, you should be testing your people's bedrooms where they breathe. You should be testing in the kitchens and in the bathrooms where the steam and other things are going to get things, like the activity and things are going to be getting people, like the contaminants riled back up. And also, when they were doing the lead safe homes, and they were, taking the lead paint off if they couldn't encapsulate it. Everything had to be removed from the home and either thrown away or cleaned properly and everything like that. This was a huge cloud that invaded every piece of everything. And for them to try to say, oh, well, it didn't do this and it didn't do that, prove it.
I'd like to play a clip from someone on whether she trusts what the EPA is saying. This is definitely not your first rodeo, not my first rodeo. EPA testing is often, if you want to give it the benefit of the doubt, flawed or not totally thorough. Do you trust? I mean, maybe they're not detecting it now, but what do you think of their claims that they're not detecting it?
I don't trust. In all fairness, it is going to take some time to do all of this testing. Now, some of the reports I've read that the EPA initiated yesterday, they're almost talking out of two sides of their mouth, because they state it's a known toxic substance, vinyl chloride, and it's known and continues to be known that it's leaking into the water, into the air, and into the soil. Okay, so we have that side of their story. But then over here, they go, well, we tested the homes. I've read where they didn't find any detection limit within the limits that they're supposed to be looking for. Well, that says to me, that doesn't mean you didn't find it.
Right.
But that's safe to go back. Which is it? So it's really frustrating that the agencies can't get it together, have a consistent story, because you're creating your lack of response and the way you are responding. Giveth, taketh away. Well, it's here, but it's not dangerous. Well, it is a hazardous chemical, but you can go home. Creates more confusion, certainly creates the conspiracy conversation to go on, or the conversation that you shouldn't be trusted, or you're not doing your job. God forbid anybody speak up and say, where the hell are you? Where is consistent information? Are you down on the ground with these people? Why are you, their leaders, not communicating with them? Why, Jordan, do I hear from them and you hear from them? Because somebody's not answering their questions. And this community, as all communities, deserve more respect than that from their local, state, and federal leaders, and stepping up to the plate. And by God, if you don't know what's happening, you're
a real fucking force of nature, Erin Brockovich. Your thoughts? Because I mean, she's getting to the point. It might not show up right away.
It's going to fall down from the air, and then it's going to be rained around. People are going to be moving around. It's not going to be like how they said that people in Flint are fine, right? Well, it takes 5 years to see the full effects of lead poisoning. And we're seeing that actually takes longer, because then effects pile on with other effects, especially when things don't get fixed. That's the thing. They're not actually cleaning these homes. So whatever initial health problems these folks are suffering, if they're going to be like, hey, let me go ahead and Clorox wipe this part of the wall, don't lick it, you'll be fine. Well, okay, what about the rest of the house? As they're continuing to kick this back up, and somebody in the chat, I was trying to catch up real quick, was writing about that. Yeah, don't touch anything. Don't kick up any dust or dirt. What about the dirt from outside? And let me tell you, remember a few years back, Jordan, you were a major part in this, when East Chicago, Indiana, they had built low-income housing on an old land where an old lead smelter had been. And it come to find out that they're like, oh, hey, don't let your kids play in the dirt, but it's fine to live here. Everything's fine. They had found 80,000 parts per billion of lead in the sand, in the soil underneath these houses. Now, 5,000 is hazardous waste. My house had 1,750. Woohoo! Whatever.
200 times the allowable limit.
Right. And so then they said it's fine. I'm like, Jordan, there is no way that is not in the water. There's no way that is not in the water, because pipes are, guess what, in the soil. You know what's in the soil? All these other contaminants.
And I asked when I was there, by the way, I was at this location maybe 2 hours. I could not breathe after an hour standing on this soil. It was like up my nose, and it burned. And you have, frankly, little black kids playing, because it was 99% African-American, low-income housing. And I went to the EPA trailer because they had a trailer. By the way, the EPA, the state, they knew about this in Indiana for decades. I didn't do shit. And he said to me, this is not Flint, Michigan. It's not in the water. A couple months later, in the water.
Thanks to you testing, because I'm like, there's no way. There's no way it's not. You found like 1,100 parts per billion in this poor house. And I'm like, oh, but, you know, again, pushing, saying Flint, test. That's the whole thing. So that's one of the things that we're trying to work with the East Palestine families. Like, all right, document everything. Go with your gut. Do not believe when the people that are responsible, not just responsible for it happening, but responsible for the cleanup and paying for the damages, when they're the ones doing the testing, there's no way that you can believe it. And everybody in their gut, we all want to believe we're going to be fine, right? Like nobody wants to believe this could happen to me. Nobody wants to believe this is happening to me. Nobody wants to believe that something is out of their control, because it's human nature and it's fear and it's, you know, something out of their control. Like, yo, I breastfed my kids and I wouldn't let them have pop, and even though they complained and blah, 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 and I'm like, here, have water instead. It's super great, right? Like it's better for you. So then the fact they yanked that out of my hands, took all that hard work away from me, and, you know, that water poisoned my kids and they're struggling to this day. Nobody wants to feel, and that, by the way, that is a moral injury. The fact that I had handed my kids something that permanently damaged them, and, you know, not by choice, obviously. So thanks for that. I needed that. Obviously, world isn't stressful enough. So nobody wants to feel helpless. Nobody wants to feel that they could be a victim. And that's why you see a lot of victim shaming, saying like, oh, that girl got raped, but she shouldn't have been in that area. She shouldn't have been wearing this, blah, 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 blah. Because in our minds, we're like, well, if I don't wear a short skirt and walk down that alley, and if I don't go out by myself, then nothing bad can happen to me. But the reality is that it does, and it is, unless you're one of the wealthy 1%, and, you know,
and also, you want to be able to trust that your government is telling you the truth.
Yes. And that's another thing. And I just, in my head, I'm like, there's no way that they're knowingly poisoned our water. I pay my water bill. I pay my taxes. I vote. You know, I do the things I'm supposed to do. So why? And people, like, to this day, there are folks that never stop drinking the water because they're like, no way. That means I have to believe everything is false. That means I have to believe the government's out to kill us, and I can't think that. And a lot of them are Black folks who are trying to recover from Tuskegee and be like, okay, we're past this now, right? This was supposed to be in the past, and look at what's happening again. And it's like, well, you can't blame him. I'm like, but please do it as a favor for me. Do it because I'll bring you water every week, whatever. Just please don't let the fear and because it's not our fault. And that's another thing too, is as humans, we like to blame ourselves, especially moms. We blame ourselves for every little stupid thing our kids do because obviously we had done something wrong at some point in time. So it's really hard to wade through all that. And at the end, and that was one of the worst things about going door to door. We knocked on 37,000 doors in Flint, and then we've gone to city after city after city to help them. But seeing like this little bit of innocence, I guess, in people's eyes kind of die, being like, oh my God, my government doesn't care. They're taking my money and they're using it to harm me. And then because like the state of Michigan and the EPA still has spent tens of millions of tax dollars that could have used to like buy water filters or filtration systems or water heaters, or just settle with folks so we could fix our own homes, to fight against what we all know is true and what we all know happened. I mean, they've used me as saying, well, the case should be dismissed because Melissa Mays was out protesting, so she had superior knowledge of the water. So, okay. And she should have sued sooner. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I should have known sooner that you lied to me. But then also they were using their crime of lying to us and covering it up as a defense. And they're getting away with it. And they're just waiting for us to die off and shut up and blah, blah. But we're going to keep pushing because the wins we've had in Flint, they're few and far between, but they're there. And we hang on to them and we're like, all right, cool, this worked. Even if it is just annoying the people in charge. But I would not listen to me at 1.5 times. Oh, no.
One is enough.
Yeah, especially when I've had a day and a half or week or year and a half. And my caffeine, since I've got ADD, caffeine calms me down. I'm out. So now I'm holding on. But
can I ask you about this? Because I don't think a lot of people realize this in the case of Flint. So a lot of people are outraged right now. Colin, if you have it, the Biden administration turns down Ohio's request for a disaster declaration after the East Palestine train explosion. FEMA continues to tell Governor DeWine that Ohio is not eligible for assistance. A lot of people are saying, what the fuck, Biden, this and that. Very rarely, or I didn't see it reported much, President Obama declined to issue a disaster declaration for Flint. The reason given is technically by the letter of the law, which is stupid. you could only declare a disaster for natural disasters like a hurricane, tornado, these kind of things. And if a disaster was declared in Flint, and if it is declared in East Palestine, what is the difference between a disaster in terms of resources and help compared to an emergency declaration?
So yeah, thanks to the Stafford Act and states' rights, states' rights, states' rights, you know, how we've, everybody wants to shrink the government instead of just making it work right like it's supposed to. Well, thanks for that. The law says that, you know, if it's a man-made disaster, it doesn't qualify as a federal disaster. It can qualify as a federal emergency, which they should file for both. But here's the thing. In Flint, we got declared a federal emergency. And we got turned down. Hell, even Governor Snyder pushed for the federal disaster because then it would take it out of the state's hands. You know, they want states' rights, and don't let the federal government tell us what to do unless it's, you know,
Wait.
a mess.
Governor Rick Snyder run government like a business until I poison my residents, and then give me the money, Uncle Sam.
That's right. Federal government, you take over because I don't want to. It's and they said in court a Herculean effort, you know, to fix the, you know, what they broke. And so then going back to that, the difference is we wanted a federal disaster because a federal emergency gave us $5 million for bottled water and filters, and then they said good luck, you know, and everything. And then that meant that we were still left in the hands of the state who did this to us. The federal government, we begged for them to come in so we could get FEMA in, so we could get actual water buffaloes and cisterns in, because we don't want to live off bottled water. It's awful. There's no dignity in it. And we're making these bottled water companies rich and then contributing to the plastic, but we have no other alternative. So I see a lot of folks out there being like, oh, we got to get rid of all plastic. Well, some of us don't have alternatives, and the tap filters are garbage, and they don't do what they're supposed to do because they're not. Wait, let me take that back. The tap filters don't do what we need them to do because we need something that's going to protect our lives. Tap filters are to take that chlorine taste out of your water and to do the polishing, not to protect your life. So, yeah, there's that. And it can't be used for hot water, and they can also grow bacteria if there's a microbial issue in the water, if your water's badly treated like ours or your infrastructure is unstable. So that aside, we don't want to, you know, and that's why I drank my tap water when I went to the gym 4 to 5 days a week during this period at the beginning, because I didn't want to, you know, why am I going to pay for a bottle of water? I've got clear tap water I pay for highest rate in the United States for at home. Now, take all that aside, a federal disaster would have taken us out of the control of the state of Michigan, and maybe we would have some kind of recovery. We wanted the Army Corps of Engineers to come in and work with the Plumbers Union, and they said they could get 1,000 volunteers in here in like a month and get everything. We could have had all the new infrastructure from front to back like we should have had, and had that done in a year. We could have had help with our houses. We could have actually had help to recover. And again, a federal emergency allowed us to remain in the hands of the people who did this to us. And that's why we still, to this day, 3,220 days later, we don't have a recovery, and we're still doing the same thing that we were doing in 2015, which is so much fun. But yeah, no, and that's why it's important that a disaster, but again, we keep talking about states' rights, states' rights. Well, you know, until help needs to come, and then here we are.
My last question for you is, in terms of East Palestine, residents are basically getting, you know, the company line from the EPA that current testing is showing you're fine. The Ohio governor gave a very like weird ham sandwich answer. Yeah, I think I'd, you know, use bottled water, but I'd go back home. As you know, for those, you know, lack of empathetic Republicans who say, well, why don't you move? Well, most people can't just get up and move. Most people can't afford to go to a hotel without it being reimbursed. I've spoken with people who are not only stressed because of their physical symptoms, but because they don't have the money to get their children and themselves to safety. So what are residents supposed to do right now? Because this could either go one of you got me. The residents can band together until the state starts infiltrating with moles to sow division, and residents and activist groups start fighting each other, because that happens sometimes. Or they could band together and say, we're not going to take this. It's easier said than done because everybody's got to still work and pay the bills. But what are the residents supposed to do? Because I got news for you. The media is going to leave in the next in the next few days. And then we're going to move on to the next mass shooting, the next mass whatever, the 2024 presidential election. And this is going to get lost aside from Status Coup and the few others that will stay on it. So what, from a Flint resident who's been fighting a very, you and other activists there have been fighting a very lonely fight. What's your advice to the people there?
So I told
and I should say, just so people understand, Flint, it's 9 years in April. I don't give a shit what the state of Michigan says because I've been there and Melissa lives there. People still get rashes from that water. Flint is one of the worst cancer clusters now in America. They didn't get cancer from drinking Kool-Aid. They didn't have a health registry in Flint for years. So there is no way to know how many people have died from the lead, from the Legionnaires, from other contaminants in that water. I did an interview in Flint a year and a half ago. It was about 15 people in a park. 4 of them have died since then. So Flint, the word crisis, people kind of become numb to it and it loses its meaning. Flint, no matter what they have said, is still very much a crisis. But in America, stuff that is not normal in other countries, it wouldn't be tolerated in other countries, is buried and swept under the rug. And it's basically, as I've said, they poison you, they cover it up, and then they leave you to die slowly.
Absolutely. And because you didn't die right there real quick, you don't seem to count. They don't seem to count. And they don't talk about like your slow decline and all the surgeries, health problems, and loss that you have. So people usually ask us in Flint, well, if it's so bad there, why don't you move? Number one, I didn't do this to my house, just like East Palestine didn't do that to their home. We have people that worked hard their whole lives to make their homes. But okay, if you look at it as a home, just a building, fine. You come by my poison water house for what I owe to the bank. How about you do that? It takes money to move. And I don't know if you notice the pattern, but this doesn't happen in wealthy communities. And if it does, it gets cleaned up like that. But then the wealthy have the resources to be able to pick up and move, buy a new house, rent a house so this is getting taken care of, and all that stuff. The rest of us normal folk don't. And then I had somebody tell me, well, file bankruptcy on your mortgage. Go ahead and just default bankruptcy. I'm like, my kids want a future, and I'm going to have to, because we live in America, co-sign for some student loans because I want my kids to go to college and whatnot because I'm also stupid. But, so I'm going to need some credit there to help them out. And also, I'm going to continue to spend another, 10 years with the bankruptcy because my house got ruined by the government making decisions on my water. So however, I told the resident today, like, look, it's everywhere in your house, and you need the energy and you need your health to be able to fight. So you do what's right for your family and you do what you need to do. But in the meantime, you don't stop fighting. Even if you go move somewhere else temporarily, you don't stop fighting, because if you give up, if you throw your hands up, or if you take the little morsels that they're giving you, and if you believe in, which it is human nature to want to do because you want this over with, like you look at COVID, we all just want to go back to normal. People still, hundreds of people every day dying, and it's just like, no, it's not thousands, so it's okay. We just want to be normal. We want to just be able to live. And unfortunately, for a lot of folks who are, like us in Flint and East Chicago and Milwaukee and all these different cities, and now East Palestine, it's not possible without a fight. And so the best thing that we can do is all unite, because if we fight in silos, whether it be on issue or location, it's easier to knock us over and to dismiss us. But if it's all of us coming together saying, stop poisoning us, you wouldn't exist without our tax dollars and our existence, and we run this country, even though you get paid to do it, and you're doing a great job running it into like the trash bin and the dumpster fire here, obviously. But if we all stick together and support one another and create this network where we're just not going to take this anymore, and we're not going to take the poison, right? We're not going to settle with a little less poison, a little less lead, or acceptable levels that have nothing to do with your health. And, our tests show, because we didn't test for it or didn't test properly. No. It needs to, the control needs to be taken out of the hands of the people who are poisoned or poison us. The control needs to be taken out of the hands of the poisoners and put back in the hands of the people that are poisoned and the people who don't want to be poisoned. And then we need to, again, and I always say that, support journalism, independent journalism, because it's the only way you're going to find out the truth. I saw people coming to me saying, I saw you on the news, like on CNN, like however many years ago, I thought everything was fine because they're not talking about it. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't mean it's still not happening. But there's a balloon, damn it. But anyway, and like China's spying on us, and so is America. Like, why are we mad at China? And they used a balloon, whatever. I don't even care. Y'all know my stuff anyway. But the thing is what about my water? What about my water? What about my water? What about my house? What about my kids, their health, their kids, all that stuff? What about East Palestine? What are you going to do to make sure people are actually safe? You need to pay to actually have independent researchers come in. So again, supporting independent researchers that aren't bought off, making sure residents have the resources they need to survive. Because right now, they're not going to even know what that is, because like just what Aaron said, they're not even going to show them what the actual problems are, because they're not tested for it, or they're going to lie and cover it up, so they don't know what they're facing. So we just have to be supportive, share their stories, and let the independent journalists like you guys to help get the stories out, and let the residents speak and share their stories. Don't share, and it's so irritating. Somebody, by the way, last week said, well, according to this website, which was from the state of Michigan, that Flint has really clean water and they can legally sell this bottled water. I'm like, yo, dude, I will go ahead and bottle you some and won't even charge you. I will send it to you as long as you drink it on camera in front of me. Do it. So I gave some advice to some folks who are doing interviews today about invite folks out. They say it's clean and safe. Invite them out to, hang out at your house for 15 minutes, see how long it takes them to get a nosebleed. Have them take a shower, drink some unfiltered tap water, eat some food, cooked off your dishes and your hard materials. Be like, no, it's okay. Clorox wipe had it. It's fine, right? And don't worry about the soft stuff with all the chemicals in it. Don't worry about that smell. Don't worry about that burning in your eyes. Sorry, you can't see. No, seriously. And demand that they come out there and that they live where you live. And again, that's what needs to be done. And you guys need to be careful going out there in any place that's poison, just because, how many times I yell at you, don't you drink that water. Don't you drink that water. Don't you be staying here in Flint.
Well, you should hear my wife when I told her I was going to East Palestine. I was ready to give me the divorce papers, but I do have a 3-month-old. So, I guess. Yeah.
But that's listen to the people, listen to you, support independent journalism. That's the only way we're going to get the story out. And that's the only way people are going to get help, like proper help.
I want to make a point before you go. There's been a lot of people, both friends of mine, not because they don't care, but just because they really want to know, and just assholes who say, Jordan, why do you keep on Flint? I mean, you're not really getting any traction. I see you working weekends on these stories. I see you on phone all the time with sources. Sometimes my wife thinks I am in a secret relationship with the residents of Flint because I talk to them more sometimes. And why do you keep covering this one story? I'd say 40-50% of my time is on Flint. And I've always had the same answer, because if they get away with it in Flint, and by they, I mean the government, the business developers who were involved in poisoning Flint, the federal government, the state government, the local government, the privateers, because pretty much most of the public-private partnerships in America are just privatization schemes. If they get away with it and no one is held accountable, that's the playbook for when it happens to you. And it might not be a water crisis. It might be an air crisis, a soil crisis, name it, mining, fracking, housing. But if they get away with poisoning a whole community, sweeping it under the rug, falsely declaring it safe. Again, I've been there as recently as a year. People still get rashes. People still tell me their eyes burn when they shower, hair falling out. You've said your water looks like it's blue. So if they get away with it here, that's the playbook for them to get away with it in Ohio. The mayor of East Palestine seems like he's a genuine guy, wants to do the right thing. The governor of Ohio can't say the same thing. The Biden is Obama, just older and less charismatic. So that's the playbook. That's why it's so important, and why I've stayed on Flint. And I'm not delusional. I don't think I'm bringing anyone to justice here, but to at least get the truth out. So hopefully there could be little sprinkles of justice and accountability, because I got news for you. What's going to happen here is it's not going to be trending anymore. Reporters will not be there. Norfolk Southern is going to use their army of lawyers to narrow this down to the radius of victims is 100 yards, when it really might be several states. It really might be two countries, because Canada might be affected too.
Well, it really falls under federal like jurisdiction then when it's crossing state lines, right? Like,
yeah.
Hello.
But it's important because it's all connected. And if they get away with it in Flint, which so far they have, they're going to get away with it in East Palestine. And, I think it's a good thing. There's a couple independent journalists on the ground in East Palestine. Hopefully they stay on it. It's very hard in this fucked up country where there's one crisis after the next to actually stay religiously on a story and to stay loyal to it. It is hard, but some things are very important and some things are about more than one town. It's about more than just Flint. It's about more than just water. It's about what kind of country do we live in? The people of East Palestine didn't just fucking explode a bomb on themselves. Neither did Flint. No. And they basically have been treated like the culprits. And that's not right. And by the way, in the case of Flint, the actual culprits have got off scot-free.
Yeah.
Rick Snyder, the governor, his jaywalking ticket, he got charged with a misdemeanor, was dismissed because of the incompetence of the Democratic Attorney General, Dana Nessel. 8 other defendants had their charges dismissed. Now the current Attorney General, who seems to want to spend most of her time on MSNBC, leading the resistance against the Republicans as she probably prepares herself to run for governor when Whitmer wants to run for president. Mark that down, that's happening. By the way, Biden wanted to name Whitmer his vice president. His people talked him out of it, saying, we need, frankly, a black woman to be vice president. Biden wanted Whitmer. He still does. So the point is, this is all important, and it might not be the sexy story, and it's not going to be trending, but I got news for you. Unfortunately, people in East Palestine are going to get sick in the next few years. They're probably not going to get Medicare for all either, just like the people of Flint haven't. And who's going to pay for their environmental doctors? Melissa is a regular internist, good for heavy metal poisoning or petrochemical poisoning?
Nope. My doctor straight out told me, I brought in my water test, just like the air test said for the one resident that you might want to consult your doctor on how to get treated for this. My doctor said, what is this? I don't know what total trihalomethane are. I don't know what this is. I just know it's a poison. And this is a first world country, supposedly. So we're not trained on how to deal with this. So as regular practitioners, so we're going to go ahead. My doctor is awesome. He is amazing. Just grumpy old man that is just like, I'm not letting him tell me what to do. And I'm going to send you to an occupational doctor who also he deals with occupational hazards. There's also an environmental physician, which I had to pay for out of my pocket because insurance doesn't cover those types of doctors. But that's how you get help for, poisoning. So yeah. They're going to send people the regular doctors are going to be like, and if they live in East Palestine, they're going to be sick too. So yeah, they're just going to be like, oh, I don't know what to do with this because we're a first world country and we're not supposed to have these problems. But what it's supposed to say, what they actually want to say is, we're doing all these things. You're not supposed to notice. And poor and poisoned people need to not be speaking up because they're going to, cost us a little bit of money to fix what we did. So that's what it is. And that's why you guys are important, because you are continuing to tell people that, hey, Flint's still messed up. All these other cities are still messed up. Now, some cities that we've helped, they got fixed and fixed right way before we did, which is, I'm so happy for them, but I'm over here going, oh my God, what about us? So I don't want East Palestine to be the first, they're not going to be the last explosion, unfortunately. I don't want them to be like us. I don't want them to be that Flint where they launched this whole awareness, like, oh my God, trains exploding and running off there, rail workers not getting any sleep or breaks or anything like that. Oh my God, this must be a bad thing. And then they're just like, oh, well, whatever, though, that's old news. So, it's not sexy unless there's dead bodies for them to show, I guess. But the thing is that we need to remember we're all human. But also we all have power. We have power, even though, we're not in the 1%, we do have power. And as long as we, stand with each other and push back, eventually, and I have to keep telling myself, they asked if I had hope we'd ever have clean water. I started laughing. I was like, hope's a dangerous thing. Absolutely not. I can hope all day long and nothing's going to happen. However, I have faith in our residents and I have faith in the people that are pushing and fighting back that we'll get someone like we have. So we have to do that. And again, the the more we band together. Unfortunately, it's like this massive army of poison people. It would be great if it was pre-poisoned people, but if that's what we got to do, fine. And we can just march and take over that way. But that's what we're going to have to do, because unfortunately, this poisoned army is going to get bigger and bigger.
And you know what? There's also realities. Tell you the truth. I mean, I'm working on a book on Flint right now. It's been it's been hard to get media to give a damn. It's been hard to get publishers to give a damn, surprisingly.
Tell me I believe.
Yes, because Melissa, you know what I got, and it's pretty fucking scandalous. Most of this stuff has never been out there in the book I'm writing. But what I said to a publisher was, you know, at the end of the day, all this stuff has gotten lost in the carnival. Remember, Flint broke in the news in 2016, and what else happened? Trump came down the escalator, and the media lost its mind and ran and abandoned anything else to basically create a reality show for profit and ratings. The head of CBS said Trump is bad for America, but great for business. And frankly, they're going to drop this because they're going to be covering the 2024 election now. So real independent journalism is so important, because, to tell you the truth, I'm not patting myself, but when I go back to Flint, every time, the local media is not even covering it anymore. So if you don't have national media covering things, if you don't have local media, then people die in silence. I mean, that's really what happens. I have people all the time desperate because they are calling me because they can't get their local media to cover it, or like the local reporter wants to cover it, but their boss says no. You know how that goes. So the other thing is, after a while, poison people get tired. It's tough to fight for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. Do you blame them? People physically are getting sicker in Flint because it's not just lead. It's bacteria, PFAS, all sorts of shit. People, autoimmune issues, cancers at relatively young ages, cancers with no family history, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, liver failure, kidney failure. This is all stuff that has happened in Flint. And what's the answer the government says? What do the doctors say? Well, we can't prove it's because of the water. No, it's because of fucking Kool-Aid. And the same thing, unfortunately, is going to happen in East Palestine. And I hope, because we'll be able to separate the real people for the fake people. The real journalists are going to cover it when it's not sexy, when it's not going to build their career, when it's going to make them fucking miserable and depressed because nobody gives a shit other than the residents. Those are the real journalists. And the fake ones will, exploit it now and then leave.
And you can tell who the real ones are, because I'm actually one, I'm upset at you because you got a new baby that you're thinking of going, but also I was thinking about going myself, and
you're not going.
Yell at you.
I will not allow you go, and that's not as a patriarchal mansplaining, but you are immunocompromised and cannot go into
I will put a bag over my head. It'll be fine. But at least, I just don't want the people in East Palestine to think that they're alone. I know that they feel that way, and that we're going to support them in every way that we can. Because just some of the things I heard over the past couple of days is not on the media at all, except through you guys. And I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. I mean, of course, I should know this by now. Whatever you see on mainstream media is just a spec and a polished over view of what's actually happening, or not even right at all, because that's usually the general of it. But
Melissa, let me show you this headline. Let me show you this headline from the New York Times. This is not the Onion. This is the New York Times. Okay. Chernobyl 2.0, Ohio train derailment spurs wild speculation. For many influencers across the political spectrum, claims about the environmental effects of the train derailment have gone far beyond known facts.
There's not even facts to know. They haven't even done
who are the known facts? But who are the known facts coming from?
The people that did it.
Let me give you a reminder about the EPA. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but these are facts. In Flint, the EPA went into people's homes and they tested the wrong way. They tested later in the day when the water was already in use in many homes, when you're supposed to test first thing in the morning after the water has not been used for 6 hours. They were going into homes, and that's against the lead and copper rule, which is the EPA's federal regulation. The state of Michigan, which we broke years ago, they cheated on the water testing. They were running the water, flushing the water before, not the night before, like 2 minutes before, running the water and then putting the sample bottle in. I went to the EPA. I said, is this against your violations? They said, yeah, that's not the way to do it. Did they do anything about it? No. Did they throw out the testing and demand new testing and demand that the government reopen the water pods? Of course not, because either the EPA was doing fucking with the testing themselves, or they were complicit by looking the other way. So this is who the New York Times says we need to wait for the facts. And again, I'm not saying all EPA workers are bad. I know people in the EPA that are good people and want to protect the environment and the people. Unfortunately, their bosses, maybe not so much. So the New York Times, is it Chernobyl? I don't know. Is it a fucking chemical mushroom cloud? Yes. Is there people in other states having symptoms? Yes. Could there possibly be people in Canada with symptoms? Yes. Is vinyl chloride, when combusted, turn into phosgene, which was used in World War I as a strangulation? Yes. But the New York Times, one more time, well, let's cool it with Chernobyl 2.0. Let's stop with this wild speculation. Well,
photo. Okay. No, that's vitamins in the air, right? Like that's vitamins, just like the bacteria and the TTHMs and the heavy metals they're good for Flint. Like, you know, what's our daily dose of lead? You know what's our daily dose of E. coli? We're fine. You know, that might have been bad like 10 years ago, but that's a mushroom cloud. People got tired of breathing clean air anyway. They just need to jazz it up with some forever chemicals. That sounds about right. And then we'll test in one spot. We'll test wrong. We won't test for everything and tell them it's fine, because people are annoying and shouldn't ask questions. Because when I was getting sued by a certain PhD for $3 million for saying our water is still bad, one of the emails and the FOIAs that came out was, how dare these normal people like her question you? Because you have a PhD, so you know more. You're the expert. And I'm like, yeah, but you're working for the state who did this to us. Real good. And how dare I question I should know my place.
I got to go because my wife's going to kill me. Melissa, Melissa, people always ask, how can people support Flint? There's a lot of organizations I don't put a lot of stock in, but there is one. Well, there's more than one. But Melissa, tell people about Flint Rising.
Yes. So aside from supporting Jordan, because he's the only person that really even cares anymore, you know, and Status Coup, Flint Rising, it's a group of Flint residents, Flint women that are pushing back, fighting back. We've been on the ground. From our different groups kind of congealed in 2016. So we're doing the on-the-ground response. We're doing right now a survey going out to help Flint residents to see whose work hasn't been done, types and all that stuff, because everything that the offenders put out is false. And yeah, but you can go to flintrising.com, and that's where you can get our information. You can support us. You can reach out to us. If you find me on Twitter, I'm Flintgate, because I'm a jerk. And that's my fun part. But then, yeah, you can reach out to us through that and find us, and just, yeah, we'll happily give you the truth on things. And then also, if stuff is happening, and if there's any East Palestine residents out there, you know, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to do what we can. And if we got to shame, you know, your elected officials being like, well, you're treating them like Flint residents, so that way they'll actually jump up and do something, fine. But also, we'll help you sort through the testing and the non-testing and what's there and what's not there. As best as we can, and try to connect you with some of our trusted folks, you know, like Jordan has and stuff. So, because we've come across a lot of awful folks out there, but through the years, we've come across some really good ones that stick by us, like this dude over here. So, and his whole team. So, yeah, just
well, you know, I hear from certain quarters that I only do this to exploit poor people, and I said I'm doing a bad job because I'm not making any money off of this.
You don't know what exploiting means, Jordan. You should figure that out. Do a little better. You make some money off of that mess. But hey, I get told that I only do interviews because I get paid. And I'm like, well, but also paid by George Soros, who I don't know. And so I asked for an address to send an invoice. And nobody's able to give me that address. So I guess I just
Yeah.
keep on going. So you keep going on not making money, and I'll do the same thing. It's great.
Yeah. You know, my 2 back surgeries, one of which is probably from driving nine hours back and
Right
forth
after
to Flint.
surgery, which you did it.
Yeah. After I had back surgery, I drove 9 hours to Flint. That was because of all the money I'm making, but I digress. Thank you, Melissa Mays. Everybody
No
check
problem.
out Flint Rising, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Super chats. We got a bunch of super chats. And as a reminder, Lewis is going to be on the ground in East Palestine starting Sunday. And he's going to be there probably for the week. My expectation is most reporters will be leaving soon. So that's where we like to be. We like to get there when the cameras leave because, like I say, that's typically where the real cover-up begins. So if you can support us, if you're new here, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you can support us as a paying member, that's how we fund our on-the-ground reporting. It's not cheap. We're independent. We don't have any money from the big banks, the fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, or the military-industrial complex. So that's statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Thank you, Glenn, 1999. Stay safe, Lou. Yes, I did tell him to wear a respirator for sure. Leah, 999. Recently found your channel trying to find information on this subject. I'm a few hours away from the site. Thank you for all the honest journalism. Thank you. I'm glad you found us. It's not easy. YouTube does not make it easy to find us or other independent outlets. So really glad you found us. Hope you subscribe and stick around. Tony, $5. Thank you. Most news outlets talk the talk, Status Coup, walk the walk. You're damn straight. And by the way, bad planning on my part, but in a few days is our 5-year anniversary. Look at that. 5 years. Technically 5 years ago, we started as Jordan Sheridan Reports, and then a couple months after that became Status Coup, but that was in February of 2018. So 2019, 20, 21, 22. 5-year anniversary. Colin, we should make a graphic. Big accomplishment. Observer, $2. It's the figure it out for yourself motherfuckers policy. That's capitalism. That's why we live in the United Corporations of America. Das Bo's Fleiss, €5.99. Happy birthday, Lewis. I would say enjoy your trip, but I have my doubts. I had no idea it was his birthday. I would have not asked him to come on. Michiganius, $20. Please wear a very protective respirator while reporting in East Palestine. I recommend 3M's 60926 filter. I already actually sent that to Lewis. So thank you for that recommendation. Chris Garrett, $5. Happy birthday, Status Lou. I concur. Monica, $10. Thank you so much, Monica. Tony, $5. At this point, I think we could all conclude that the acronym for EPA stands for the Enterprise Protection Agency. C-suite always gets their air cover. I'm going to write that down. I call the CDC the Capitalism Defense Center. So the EPA is the Enterprise Protection Agency. I like that. Humorous, $50. Thank you so much. Stop voting for the GOP and the Democratic Party. Start voting for progressives, independents, and socialist people. Get rid of these other two groups. For that matter, let's all get a pack and a tent and start walking to Washington and fire them all. I agree. And by the way, all this shit is happening under Democrats and Republicans. Remember, Flint happened under a Republican governor, but the Democratic president basically did jack shit. This is happening under a Democratic president, Republican governor, same thing. It's bipartisan. We live in the United Corporations of America, and the politicians are not going to deliver what should be just the basic government services for something that sickens residents through no fault of their own. Same thing happened during COVID. They gave you like a check or two, some unemployment, and that's it. They've totally pulled back all protections. Biden ran on COVID care in the hospitals and everything would be free. That went out the window. Long COVID, if you have it, you're on your own. This is what happens when you literally have a government that's been purchased. So that's it. Thank you so much to everybody. It was a big week. By the way, we grew on Twitter, I think, by 1,000. So if you're not on our, if you haven't followed us on Twitter, that's at Status Coup on Twitter. We also are growing here on YouTube, thankfully. So we've gone up a couple hundred on YouTube. Look what happens when a major catastrophe happens in the news and YouTube doesn't bury it at first. Part of why we've been able to grow and people who have found our channel is because it's actually in YouTube search engine. But normally the stories we cover, YouTube doesn't have it in its search engine. So this has been the rare exception when, for a week at least, it's in YouTube search engine. People are looking for East Palestine. And since we're covering it the most, it's coming up. If we did that all the time, unfortunately, we wouldn't be covering substance, because most of the time what's in YouTube search engine is junk and reactionary bullshit. I digress. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Lewis will be on the ground in East Palestine starting Sunday. Here's what I need you to do. Doesn't cost you anything. Sign up for our Substack, statuscoup.substack.com. You can sign up for free, and you will get alerts on Substack when we're going live. YouTube does not notify you every time we're live. Sometimes you get a notification way late. So by signing up to our Substack, you'll get an email into your email box for original stories that we write at Substack, but also right before we're going to go live. So statuscoup.substack.com. You can sign up there for free, and you get our original written stories there too. Click the bell here on YouTube. So by clicking the bell next to the subscribe button, click all notifications. That way you'll hopefully get notified when we're live. And again, if it's within your means, definitely StatusCoup.com. Join.